that he has been doing, and the work that we pray God that he's going to continue to do, not for his own satisfaction, not for his own glory, but for the glory of the spiritual Baptist, for you and for me, for the honor and glory of God. So let's give him a round of applause as we give him
Dear Lord, prepare me.
A very pleasant good afternoon to each and every one. I recognize the head of the Spiritual Baptist League, under whose leadership we perform. His Eminence, Patriarch Dr. Stephen F. Julien. So you don't know whether you recognize somebody what to do. Come on, brother. Come on. Permit me as well to recognize His Eminence, Deputy Patriarch Lib. I recognize His Grace Archbishop Wayne Jones, His Grace Archbishop Julien Nathaniel, His Grace Archbishop Anthony Ansel Goodrich, His Grace Archbishop Mary Karen Ford, and all the other bishops in our midst, all our sleepy, I miss my brother, man. But he has a special introduction to get later, you see. But I will still recognize His Grace Archbishop Ken Tracy. And all our bishops and abbesses present, is that Bishop Francis Woodman? Stand up, please. The reason why I said to stand up is that we have very few spiritual Baptists in the land who are prepared to help spiritual Baptists financially. attention. And when we were in a deep hole for We Baptist Got Talent, he gave us a day out. He gave us a lifeline. And so, we are tremendously grateful for you. First time I get a platform to tell you personally. I have been invited to be the featured speaker, and I hope you have time because this is a topic I can speak all week on. It's not a topic that one could just simply gloss over because there are a lot of scholastic aspects of it, there are a lot of emotional aspects of it, and I want to say up front, if you see me get excited about anything I say, I am not angry. Yeah? But I have some hurt. Because when you talk about liberation and you talk about emancipation, they are both issues of freedom. And if you're speaking about freedom, the other aspect of freedom is the lack thereof. And therefore, those of you who came here today, I pay you my respects. And you deserve a round of applause for that. Because we have a lot of spiritual Baptist people who do not believe that emancipation concerns them. And that emancipation has to do with another set of people, without recognizing our root. Marcus Garvey said that anybody, just about anybody, who doesn't have a sense of their culture, of their origin, of their being, is like a tree without roots. And we have a lot of our people walking around like headless chickens because, you know what? Those who enslaved us made sure that we didn't have a connection to the origin of our ancestors. And I hope nobody is offended by the word ancestor. I hope nobody is. Because if you read the Bible, they talk about who begat who, and who begat who, and who begat who. That is the ancestry we are talking about. So, we have come a long way. In this country called Trinidad and Tobago, there's a big difference, there's a separation. A lot of people don't know that Tobago really started off historically before Trinidad. Even when that gentleman called Christopher Columbus came in the region, and he supposedly discovered the islands, yes, in 1498, Trinidad was named, with those who were here before, named here Irie, yes? But he came because he saw the three peaks. He named it in the Trinity on behalf of Spain. And he saw, when he saw Tobago, Tobago had the look of a cigar, so tobacco, yeah? That's something they came about. But our first peg in our role that we now enjoy as Christian believers is that it was on June 30th, 1800, that a certain gentleman called Lieutenant Governor Thomas Picton wrote into law that it is beholden upon the slave master to teach Christianity to his slaves. And here's the reason. So that they will develop some degree of morality. Could you believe that? You hijack a people from a very sophisticated society and boldfacedly say you want to teach them some degree of morality. And that was our first introduction through the slave master. The slave master taught our ancestors his form of Christianity. To the extent that in America there was a book called the Slave Bible, where it was adjusted in every way so that we would be subservient to the slave master. And even today in our DNA, the behavior is still the same. We look towards the north as our saviors, went down to the south is our breadbasket. So that was in 1800. And then, fast tracking a little bit, a group of people called the Baptist Missionary Society came into the region, out of England. They went to Jamaica, they came to Trinidad, also in India, etc. And their role was the spreading of the gospel according to this English system. And of course, according to the English system, is that Jesus was a white man. Yes? And those of you who went to religious lessons in your primary schools, every icon that they taught us was a little white boy, a little white lady, etc. And we grew up in our mind thinking that Jesus was a white man. So some of you who may say to me, it matters not. I will say to you, it does matter. Because we have to live the truth. And facts are stubborn things. Could you imagine a little white fella in Africa in the Garden of Eden among all these little black children hiding from the king? Huh? Could you imagine that? Will our God that we serve is such an author of confusion? Certainly not. So when the Baptist Missionary Society came into the region, they started to teach a certain kind of doctrine. Emerging out of that doctrine will be the Fundamental Baptists, the London Baptists, and those other Baptist institutions. But those who were our ancestors spiritually knew that that was not their calling. Spiritually knew. So what they had to do? To be themselves, their mask or religion behind another religion. That is why the first book I bought in 1996 as an adult in the spiritual Baptist faith, even though I was in since age 6, but as a conscious person, was the Ancient and Modern. And whose book is the Ancient and Modern? The Anglicans, eh? And we have to buy that. I mean, that's what our hymn book called, that's where our manuals were. So when they came in the early 19th century, those were the teachings. Because our people resisted those teachings, it led to a certain action in the 1900s. Now, flip back a little bit. 1934 was the year that emancipation was proclaimed. 1834. Yes? But those white slave masters were so crafty that they came up with an apprentice system for our people that was supposed to last 6 years. But over time, there was some agitation against it. And there was an ex-slave in Jamaica, I think his name was Williams, started a protestation in Jamaica that spread through the region. And that was why it is now said that emancipation was declared in 1838. Now, I don't carry the story about Wilberforce and all those fellas in the Parliament of England who were so good to us and for that in human conditions of our family. No. Dr. Eric Williams wrote it properly. The emancipation came about because of economic reasons. Not because they loved us so much. Not because they become so caring and good Christians that they ask God to forgive them. No. Because when our foreparents were captured in Africa, when they had to crawl through a door called the door of Mafa, M-A-A-F-A, it meant the door of no return. Once you crawl through that door, that's the last time you see Africa. And you know what? When you crawl through the door, there was a priest blessing you to go on to the slave ships. I've been throughout Africa, and it hurts when you go to Elmina Slave Castle and you go to Cape Coast Castle. The aspect of Cape Coast Castle is that there's still evidence of the filth that our ancestors had to bear while they were in captivity in the castle. And down in the dungeon, they were just above the dungeon was the Anglican Church, celebrating the captive of human beings that they declared were 3/5 human beings. And when you go to Eminence Slave Castle, which was the female captive area, you even today you can still see the hidden step that the governor will stand up, watch all the ladies bathing and washing, and identify which one he will take for the night. And they will pass her through a secret door, and she has to spend it with the governor. She didn't have a choice. And today they are the upholders of morality. Many wanted to teach our people morality in 1800. We have come from far. We can't do that now. Because of the resistance of our people. When our people became free from bondage, from chattel slavery, and they started to demand now that the skills that they have, the tailoring, the barbering, the blacksmith, every skill you can think about, when they started to say, listen, we will work for you, but we are not working for free anymore. That is when we started to be called lazy. And you know what? They told us that so often that some of us believe that we're really lazy. We only became lazy because we refused to work for free. Some of us in this country still enjoy the colors that we have, our skin colors, and believe that we're more superior to the person with the darker skin. And of course, some of our skins are almost whitey looking, we feel that we are superior. But if you understand the history of how your skin being so whitey looking, then you will be embarrassed. Because my maternal lineage, a white slave master called Miles Brathwaite in Barbados. That's why I have little respect for Barbados as a country, because Barbados was a place in this region where the slaves were brought and sold, the captives were brought and sold into slavery. So he had an estate in Barbados, a plantation. He impregnated an African woman. They produced a child called Margaret, who made 7 children, and from there the children went to Panama, New York, Jamaica, St. Vincent, Grenada. My grandfather came out of Carriacou, Grenada, Carriacou to Trinidad. So I understand Patriarch, but they call me Kwaku Adu in Ghana, because Margaret, the child of that illicit sexual relation, she married a Ghanaian ex-slave called Adu. So when I go to Ghana, I'm known as Kwaku Adu. And I answer to that there. And I'm only saying that to say that the first opportunity you have to know your roots. Don't believe this thing that all of us out of Nigeria, all of us are Igbo and Hausa. No. Before the colonizers cut off Africa into all those states, we had tribes just operating in Africa with no boundaries. So you could be from Senegal, you could be from Sierra Leone as your root, even though the place your ancestor left would have been out of Cape Coast Castle or Eminence. So when we started to demand that we are paid, the Brits in their originality and creative thinking started looking for more free labor, or as free as they can. That's when our Indian brothers and sisters came. The first shipment came in 1845. And what they did to create the divide and rule is to tell our Indian brothers and sisters, oh, this Africa is too lazy. So we have to bring you out to do the plantation. But you know what? The plantation already existed when they came. It didn't happen by magic. It happened to the blood, sweat, and tears of those of our parents, those of our foreparents. So I kind of like this song. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Have no fear for atomic energy. While they stand aside and look, some say, you got to? In the book. Yes, man, let me sing these songs of freedom. Yes, redemption songs, these songs of freedom, songs of freedom. It's very appropriate as we take emancipation. But as our people struggle to find their identity, because three things are critical to us as a spiritual Baptist people: our singing, yes, the Word of God, and Mother Earth, the morning room. Those are very critical to us as we walk this journey. There's a lot of move now to separate the morning room from being a spiritual Baptist. And let me take the morning room on, that's a Pentecostal Baptist. That's the evangelical Baptist. But a real spiritual Baptist has to head to that morning room. Mother Earth is calling. So that struggle pushed us to be different. So they started calling us all kinds of names. Noise makers, shouters, examining all shakers, intermaker, Pocamania, or revivalists, now they call it. But those were all names given to say that we are not part of the mainstream of Roman Catholicism, English Catholics, Moravians, Methodists. Move us away, and to give the impression that those are the only authorized ones. But you know what? We have no official history of the spiritual Baptist faith. You know why? Because how we got it? Seen and unseen, we got it straight from the Spirit. All those other mainstream religions were created by a man. They could call his name, but the man name who we could call is a spirit. The Most High God. That's the name we could call. And that's why there's no official star date of the spiritual Baptist faith. Because the star date is the origin of God. Manifest itself for us. I often get angry when I see in today's language people disrespect. I don't like to say blacks, but that's what's being used. Blacks. Had it not been for the blacks in the region, the African people in the region, the modern societies that we know of would have never existed. Never. In fact, Columbus would not have been able to sail the world if he didn't have a black Moor as his navigator of the ship. He was able to sail out and go back in safely because of a black Moor. And he only changed it when slavery started, when they started to move people out of Africa. The Spanish people stopped using black navigators. So the walk took us to 1917, when a draconian prohibition ordinance came about that deprived an innocent people of its their God in the way they wanted to. You hear me? That draconian prohibition ordinance, there's a gentleman we must always remember, Leader Bailey, Pointer Bailey. He was the first to be charged under the Act, the Prohibition Ordinance of November 28, 1917. It was a tremendous struggle. Had it not been for the charismatic presence of Uriah Buzz Butler, Leader Buzz, that's when the dismantling started, because of his influence in the oil field and the oil industry. We have to always remember Uriah Buzz Butler in the Baptist faith. Always. Those came afterwards, stood on his shoulders. And it's out of his work, to the extent that in the Second World War, the Brits thought that it could be a danger to Britain in the war. And he was incarcerated on Nelson Island for the whole of the Second World War. And then in 1950, he could have been a premier of his country, a Baptist man. But because of their racial considerations, they gave it to one Portuguese man called Alberto. And then in 1956, another Baptist man came on the red, one by the name of Eric Williams. But Amaga was his spiritual leader. And then of course we know Archbishop. He was a Methodist at the time. We know of Archbishop. You know the name? From Julien? Anybody know the name? Elton what? Alright. So he did a lot of work. He got standing on the backs of those before him. He was able to get others to help. And then in 1996, a certain gentleman took the plan that was being given to the previous Prime Minister, and he ended up giving a national holiday. It wasn't his plan, but he was a shrewd politician. National holiday, a piece of land was given in Maloney, and somewhere along the line, every time they do something, they feel like history just started, without realizing that was not the first time that land was given to the spiritual Baptist community. Land was given to the Free Spiritual Baptist Mission in Castlefield in 1973 by Dr. Williams. And then now, as part of our freedom and emancipation, under the leadership, the distinguished leadership of His Eminence, Dr. Stephen Julien, and if you can stand for a moment, please. And if you can stand for a moment, please. And if you can stand for a moment, please. Let me photo with you. Right. You see, under his distinguished leadership, there are two bits of major things that are happening that will help heal us. Not heal us totally, but will help. Because it was on March 23rd, at a celebration in Moruga, the Honorable Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago announced that the Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago will be granting to the National Congress on behalf of the Spiritual Baptist faith a parcel of land, 6.5 acres of land. It is very close to on the Couva Main Road. And the purpose of that land is for the building of a cathedral, admin complex, and a heritage park. But then he said further, nobody should be upset if the government assists them in construction.
Hallelujah.
And here's why. You okay? And here's why. The first Anglican church was built in 1783 by the state. Those days there was no difference between the state and government. When the governor spoke, he spoke on behalf of the state. That is why the injury to the spiritual Baptist faith has to be cured, has to be healed. But that's a topic of another discussion. Further, we have never had a spiritual Baptist cemetery. And most of the cemeteries, all of the cemeteries, you do not have a spiritual Baptist lane. You see for Muslims, Anglicans, Catholics, but you never see for spiritual Baptists. So under his leadership, we have gotten 10 acres of land in Basta Hall. 10 acres! For a spiritual Baptist cemetery, which will include a cremation facility, crematory. So we want to thank God for his leadership. And let us give him a special hand clap. I pray God that you will continue to give him the strength, that you will see this project to the end. We have Chairman Archbishop Wayne Jones present. Yes, as well, he's part of the team. Give him a special too. So we have some healing to take place, but at the same time we have tremendous hope in the future. And therefore we ask you all, pray for us. Continue to keep us in your prayer. Because as you keep us in your prayer, it strengthens the mission. Because mainstream will not appreciate what we are getting. We have the dream that when the park is finished, when the stadium is, when the cathedral is finished, anybody passing on the highway, on the byways, will see the spiritual Baptist cathedral. We know when we have our weddings and our big ceremonies, and even our funerals, we'll have a place that can hold 1,000 people in one room. That's the vision. That's it. So as we talk about emancipation, we cannot do anything about the 500 years of the struggle. We cannot turn around that history that has occurred. We cannot turn around the history of our liberation, but we can do something different about the future. And we can start like we know. That is where we have control. The Most High God gave us one great facility. That great facility is the ability to make a choice in our actions. If we believe in our religion, if we believe in this faith, if we believe that the sweetest thing that ever happened to us is the day that God called us to be spiritual Baptists, if we are proud to be spiritual Baptists, raise your hand. Clap your hands. Yes. Say with me, hashtag chosen. Again, hashtag chosen. Chosen by the Most High God to be part of this faith. Proud to be spiritual Baptists. No stone could topple us. We are like a plant. No matter what you do, you can cut it down with bad, you can cut flash, you can burn the bush, you could bad mouth it, bad eye it, do what you want, it will never die. The same thing to the spiritual Baptist faith. They thought by the brutality upon us, it would have destroyed the faith. But what it did is that it strengthened us. That's the day we could assemble in His name. Yeah, rejoicing in His name. And that we could collectively sing in closing. I am a warrior. I am a warrior. No. I am a warrior. I'm a Baptist warrior. I have the weapon in my right hand. Warrior. Africans are not even listed in the census. You have not seen those of you following football. I see a lot of more people supporting Argentina. Argentina is brutal to African people. There's no Afro-Argentinian on the census, even though you have a large community of Africans in Argentina. When I went to Peru, I went looking for a group called Negro Peru, which are supposed to be ambassadors of Peru, and I cannot find them in Lima. I had to go to a place called Victoria to find them, way out of the city. And all along the coastlines of Central and South America, that's where we find our people. Because they were placed out to sea, like the Brits, when they were black Arabs in St. Vincent. And black Arabs are descendants of what we call bush Negroes. You see, our African people will navigate us. They sail the seas from East Africa all the way through. That's why we have the Aborigines, the first peoples of China were Africans, on the Papua Guinea, Solomon Island, Vanuatu, and all those places. And then they sail the west from West Africa to the South American continent. And we're making the travels over the centuries. They've crossed, mingled, commingled with what we call the Amerindians. And that's why they were called bush Negroes, because the products that came out of that community, that was long before slavery. So that there was that transition of those people that ended up in St. Vincent, and they were called Black Arabs. And there was a war and Britain. And when after decades Britain finally won, Britain placed them on ships and sent them to sail the seas. So they ended up in, thank you very much, I talked too long. They ended up in places like Belize, Colombia, Honduras, and all along those coastlines. So historically, our people have been in the region. The first president of Mexico was a Guerrero. Most of us of African descent. So we have a lot of things to hold on to. I thank God for the opportunity. I think I've burned out my welcome. And I thank you very much for the patience that you have exhibited in my discourse. May God bless you. May the peace of God that passes all understanding. May the peace that is beyond the normal comprehension of mortal souls and you and I. May that peace rest in your hearts and minds now and forever. Thank you.
Praise God. You know, there's one good thing about this. You see, when you have a wealth of knowledge and you care about your brothers, you try to give your brother as much knowledge as possible, so that someday he could be just like you with a wealth of knowledge. See, when you know and I know, we could walk a good road. But if I know and you know, I will walk and I will give you right. Yeah? Praise God. Say it good. You go like one.